Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Craig Button, standing by, brought to you by the Bayside Oceanfront Resort. Book your stay at the Bayside and enjoy the many amenities the hotel has to offer. Oceanfront rooms, free parking, oceanfront restaurant, cafe, indoor and outdoor swimming pools, gym, and more. Call 250-248-8333 or go to their website, BaysideResortParksville.com. Just before we get to Craig, Delaney's OK Tire in Langley inbox. This is from Cal in Langley. The start of the show reminded me of the start of the game last night. Power through, you guys. You'll get your chances.
Yeah.
In reference to the Canucks' slow start.
Slow start, our slow start, because somebody didn't do a mic check.
Yeah. Attaboy. Pass the buck.
We're supposed to do a mic check. 5 minutes, mic check, check. We're supposed to do that. We didn't do it today.
That's when you're right out of broadcasting school.
Check. We're supposed to do that. And Ryan asks us, mic check, and Donnie goes, check.
By we, you mean everybody except you.
We're supposed to do a mic check.
Let's get to Craig. Hopefully his mic's on. TSN Scouting Director Craig Button joins us now in the wake of the Oilers' Game 7 victory over Vancouver. How's the microphone there,
How's
Craig?
your mic? Craig, can you do a mic check?
Check, 1, 2, 3. Check, 1, 2, 3. And
that's it.
Check to you two fine gentlemen. What you did post-game for the Vancouver Canucks fans, awesome. It was really, really well done, and I think it was something that everybody enjoyed. So kudos and check to you guys.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, Craig.
Appreciate it, Craig.
We feel the same way about you every Tuesday and every day of the week, as a matter of fact. Hey, Rick Talk at postgame last night says his team put respect back into the city and to the jersey. Would you agree with that, despite what happened in Game 7 and Game 6 as well?
I don't think there's any question. I think there's two things that there's a renewed confidence from the fan base in what management was able to do and the coaching staff was able to do, and certainly finishing first in the Pacific, a very, very competitive Pacific division, finding a way to get to Game 7, despite some setbacks with Demko, and certainly the Besser news really is a gut punch. But I think also, and there's not a but, there's an addition to that, is that the emotional connection that the team made back with their fans it is really significant. I mean, we talk about the fans and the passion of the fans, and certainly, it's what drives sports. But that connection between team and fan base, I think, was rekindled. We saw how electric it can be, and certainly those two things go hand in hand, and certainly a lot of accolades go all the way through the organization, from the moves they made, and certainly to the coaching staff and what the players did on the ice.
I watched you with Jay on TSN last night, Craig, and you talked a lot about the importance of November 13th. I believe I've got the date right, and the Oilers' hiring of Chris Knobloch. What did that mean to this organization, especially when it comes to their own end of the ice?
Well, I mean, you nailed it, Donnie, to their own end of the ice. And keep in mind, too, Jeff Jackson, who came in as president of hockey operations, he knew that Chris Knobloch was a good coach. More than that, he knew that by introducing Chris Knobloch, that he would come in there with credibility because of his relationship and his past history with Connor McDavid. And then understanding that when you're a coach, there's lots of different ways to win. And to try to instill into your team that despite your offensive prowess, that you have to find a way to win games when your offense isn't there. And that's what Chris did from the moment that he got there. I mean, when you consider that on November 13th, the Edmonton Oilers were in the depths of despair. I mean, it was like, what happened here? Stanley Cup or bust? What's going on? Like, how disastrous can this be? They're in the conference final. And as I said last night on Jay, you don't just wake up on the morning of Game 6 and say, we better start playing defense. You instill it. You sell it to your players. They start to execute it. Then they believe in it. Then they commit to it. And I think Games 6 and 7 were a brilliant example of what Chris Knobloch did and what his players embraced.
Craig, put your GM hat on for me a bit here. This team could look very different next year. They've got 9 RFAs and UFAs, some big names. They got to prioritize Lindholm. I was going to ask you, would he be on the top of your list of guys that you want to bring back?
Yeah, well, yeah, he would be. I think that Elias, when he came over to the Canucks, he had an instant kind of impact, and then it wasn't very good. But he found his form come playoff time, and certainly you start to consider what it means when you have that type of depth, and it's not just depth with respect to being able to produce offense. It's being able to create matchups. He's a good defensive player. He can kill penalties. So, yeah, I would say that he becomes a real important part of this. But I would also say that when you consider, and I keep going back in time here, the Vancouver Canucks always had lots of offense, and we saw how well they could play offense. But the blue line, to me, is what significantly improved and gave them a real opportunity to have success. I use the term roster balance, and they trade for Philip Hronek, they sign Ian Cole, they sign Carson Soucy, they trade for Nikita Zadorov. Those all became really impactful, and under the guidance of Adam Foote, and I think Adam Foote deserves a tremendous amount of credit for coaching and instructing and showing players. I mean, I'm not trying to be critical of anybody in the past, but I watched things that Tyler Myers did, and I think that's a direct reflection of him being not asked to do as much as he was. That's the addition of players, and also the coaching of Adam Foote. Adam Foote was a brilliant defensive player, and I think I saw a lot of evidence of his coaching and his direction and instruction showing up in the Vancouver defenders. And certainly, you can take individual players, but I think that was a big part of it. And they have some their prospect base. I mean, like Aramaki, Wielander, these are good players. These are really good players that are going to come into the organization. I don't think they're coming in next year to make a difference, but it really is positive for the organization. And Rick Tocchet, he got. I think he did such an excellent job too in getting the team hardened. The battles. How many times do we hear Rick talk about wall battles, space battles, puck battles, and that's what it takes to win in the playoffs. These players all went through that now, and that, it's one thing to tell them, but they experienced it. They had some good success with it. Now they can carry it through and try to have better success with it going forward.
All right, he talked about positioning a lot. He worked with Brock Besser so much on positioning, improved his game. Okay, Craig, let's be honest. Pettersson, 1 goal, 13 games, not good enough. I am really going to be interested, Craig, to see when they come out this week and if they announce injuries, if he was injured or not 100%. Because if they come out and say he was 100% healthy, Craig, then you know what's going to happen in the market. I mean, it is going to be interesting to see what happens this week when he does his exit interview.
Oh, I mean, then it must be an injury that afflicted him for the past 44 games.
Yeah.
He had 8 goals in the last 44 games, and 1 in the playoffs. And certainly you allow for injury, and you give that kind of leeway to a player. But I mean, if it's not an injury, then certainly there's massive disappointment. There is. We know how gifted Elias Pettersson is. We know what a difference maker he's capable of being. For 13 playoff games, with the exception of Game 5 against the Oilers, the other 12 games, he was nothing even close to that. There was a couple of glimpses in Game 7. Other than that, I mean, and people go, "Oh, it's harsh." He does not get a passing grade in any way, shape, or form for the way he played in 12 of the 13 playoff games. And when you're looking at a player of that magnitude, of that skill, do I believe in Elias? Yeah, sure I do. Do I believe that he can learn from it? Yeah, I do. But this playoffs is not one he's going to remember fondly.
Mm-hmm. And people here remember what he's going to be making starting next season as well.
Yep.
Hey, Oilers, Stars, who's going to the Stanley Cup Final?
On April 19th, I had to do the whole bracketology all the way through. I had Dallas and Edmonton playing in the conference final, and here we go.
Really?
It's that old saying, Donnie, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, too, and I'm evidence of that. So I think that the Oilers, we talked about how they found some balance in their play. But I also believe that with respect to what they're going to face in the Dallas Stars, they're going to face a team that can threaten and make you more uncomfortable with their offensive play. The LA Kings certainly weren't going to be able to do that. We saw how the Vancouver Canucks struggled with that. That's not going to be the case with the Dallas Stars, and I think that will be one of the biggest challenges for the Edmonton Oilers is the offense of the Dallas. They can go 3 lines deep and make you pay.
Okay, one more, Craig, because this player really stood out for people in this Vancouver-Edmonton series. How much has Evan Bouchard elevated his game?
He's the number 1 defenseman in the National Hockey League. Top 10, 12 defenders in the National Hockey League. And, like a lot of defenders and defensemen that move forward in their game, learning the nuances of the game, learning, how to play certain situations. Evan isn't just a good offensive player. He's turned himself into a really good defensive player. He reminds me in terms of his demeanor so much of Sergei Zubov. Sergei, you would watch him play, and you could say, "Oh boy, geez, is he intense? Is he casual?" And you could answer no to one and yes to another. But when the game was being played and was being played in its most difficult moments, and when you're confronted with the hardest challenges, Sergei Zubov was always right there, and he was a great player. He's a Hall of Famer. Evan Bouchard, to me, has developed into exactly that type of a player.
Well, Craig, thanks so much for this solid Canucks season, and you touched on this earlier. Hats off to you as always. You talked for I don't know how many years. The Canucks have to improve their blue line. They have to improve their blue line. They improved their blue line, and they got through. They made it to a one win of the Western Conference Final. So hats off to you, and thanks so much for this.
Well, and let's be straightforward. Hats off to the Vancouver Canucks, and again, I mentioned that we know that the Vancouver Canucks fans are great, but that connection now between team and fan base, that's what sports is about, and that's something that I think should be celebrated despite the disappointment of not advancing.
A lot of fun. All right, Craig, thanks so much. Appreciate it. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.